It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Fast Break Sports and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I'm Scott Puryear. As always, thank you for listening, and a big thanks to our sponsors, Fast Break Sports and The Pitch Pizza and Pub. We'll talk more about them at the end of the podcast this week, but we're going to talk some more hoops. Always my pleasure to bring on one of my favorites. We go back to her days of elementary and junior high basketball probably, but we're going to visit with Molly Miller, the former Molly Carter from Kickapoo and Drury basketball. Molly Miller is the head coach at Grand Canyon University. Her team is 17-2 and riding a 15-game winning streak. So good timing to bring you on now, huh, Molly?
Yeah, it's been fun, and I know I'm one of your favorites with how much you heckled me back in the day.
Absolutely, well, and still, if I get a chance now.
Yes, still, and we would be done with like a 4-hour practice, and like I saw you in the cafeteria, and I'd have like 3 loaded plates, and you're like, geez, Molly, where are you putting all that? And nothing was out of bounds for you. I even got heckled on my choice of meal and the quantity I ate post-practice, Scott.
Well, I mean, I thought you were trying to become the first 5'6" power forward in the Great Lakes Valley Conference, but no, I mean, our days go back to, when you coached at Drury and we were doing the radio show from Rib Crib over on North Glenstone. Those are always fun, and Bob Luke would, the fans would be out there, and just a fun environment there. But now you're at the Division I level, killing it at Grand Canyon. As I mentioned, 17-2 and riding a 15-game win streak. You haven't lost a game since Oregon beat you back in mid-November. What's going on with this Lopes team?
We have the pieces, which is nice, and then I think the brand of basketball is really shining. Everyone's bought into that defensive commitment that I'm convicted to, but I think we've got every check box in every position. Like, we've got a really seasoned point guard who probably doesn't get enough of the print our other 4 starters do, but she's really been our glue, who kind of is the motor defensively for us. And then I've got Tiara Brown, who was my first commit from coming out of Drury, and she has been with me now. This is her COVID year. This is the last of the COVID crew. So 5 years, which is really an anomaly in the college basketball landscape. And she was an all-conference player, so she could have easily gone into the portal after she graduated after 4 years and, done the high major thing, and teams would have taken her with her abilities, but she decided to stay here. And so having her also understand what it looks like and what it has looked like to get the program to a different level, that commitment's been amazing. She's probably one of the best defenders. I got to put Deja and Haley in that category, but one of the best defenders that I've ever coached. So she gets it. And then we recruited one of the best. Well, she is the top shooter in the country right now with 3s made a game. So when you have a specialist like that on the floor with Alyssa, she was a transfer from UNLV. Every shot that goes up from the 3, it's like a layup. Like, you're almost surprised if she misses it. And so when you have that complement to some of our slashers, Trinity's our other starter that she played in the Olympics for the Puerto Rico national team last year. You just have a lot of experience, but you have compliments. And this team is really selfless. So it's not about, the one all-star or a couple all-stars. Everyone has a role, and they play that role really well. So they're always looking for our shooter on the perimeter, but they're also, which has opened up opportunities for our starting post, Laura, who's probably the most improved player in the conference. She's got multiple player of the weeks, but she's a double-double machine, and she only played 11 minutes last year coming off the bench. But she put in the work this summer. So just the buy-in of this team and the commitment to get better, we're all on the same page, and that's really, really nice to have when you do have transfers. And so we're just clicking, and then the bench players, they come up and they want to do the best when they get in, but they're happy with their role, and you can see that energy and that connectivity, and that's what it's all about. It's like my teams at Drury. You just kind of knew who was doing what and when and where and why and how, and it all worked. And there was no arguments really to that. And winning helps that. But I think this team has just done a phenomenal job of just staying true to our identity, but also being very inclusive in this team-first approach.
You know, obviously when you make the jump from Division II head coach to Division I, everybody's first question is, can she do this? Well, the things you mentioned, and I look at the numbers, and your numbers at Grand Canyon this year are very much like your numbers always were at Drury. You're averaging almost 80 points a game at 77, allowing 58 points a game, which has got to be among the best in the country in Division I defensively. A 19.1 scoring average margin difference there, so you're winning your games by almost 20. But you're forcing 21 turnovers a game. I know the 15 you're committing are a little high for your liking, but still, this looks like your Drury teams. And obviously, the Molly Miller style of coaching has transitioned nicely from Division II to Division I. Was that instant, or has it been a process over the 5 years to get your kids to understand how you wanted to play?
A little bit of both. I think when we initially took over the program, we put it in a better spot in terms of, they had never made a championship conference game. We did that the first 2 years we were here, and now, we're on a whole new level, beating the Arizonas and the Arizona States. In your own state, you're able to knock off two really good teams like that. Now we've just taken it to another level. So I think we did have some instant success with the brand, but we're also growing into that consistency and that sustained success, which we always had at Drury. And I'm glad the brand transcended the division, because the defense was important to me of how we played, and that allows you to win differently too. We've got some of these games where we can flat outscore people, but we were in a battle yesterday. The game was in the 50s. We won. We were able to hold a team to 6 points in the fourth quarter and win with our defense. So that's what I really like about this team too. Like, we're always going to fall back on our defense, and that's going to help us if you can't outscore a team one game and your shot's not falling, or maybe you're in foul trouble with some of your prominent scorers. Like, our team defense will always be there, and that's what's really carried over, I think, philosophically from my Drury days to my GCU days. And it looks a little different. I mean, you got to pick and choose your times to press. There's some athletes that can water bug their way through it, but it's still the same intensity, some of the same philosophies in terms of technique and style, and we're still getting after it. So I loved that was able to translate, and I do think that was a question mark, but it takes a lot of buy-in from the team, and when you have that, I think you can get good at anything that you're really convicted to. And for us, it's that defensive style, and our offense has come along nicely with the pieces we've recruited. As
I mentioned, Grand Canyon 17-2 overall, riding a 15-game winning streak, 4-0 in the Western Athletic Conference, the WAC. You mentioned at Tarleton State last weekend, 57-53 win, outscored them 14-6 in the fourth quarter, down 7 at the half there. Coming off a win at Abilene Christian right before that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, I look at the WAC. You're on top of the standings at 4-0. There's a lot, a couple 3-1s in there, but their overall records are not nearly what yours is. How would you rate, and without providing any bulletin board material for the rest of the way, your schedule looks pretty good down the stretch, and you've been on the road to the places that you need to go win. I know you still have a trip to maybe Cal Baptist left. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This schedule, it's still tough. I've got a couple of assistants from different areas, the Mountain West, the West Coast Conference, which those have typically kind of been some prominent conferences on the West Coast, and so their introduction to WAC basketball has been, I think, a pleasant surprise in terms of competitiveness. Well coached, but very tough-nosed kids. You kind of have just a mix of all styles, and it's physical. You've got some good skill. Abilene Christian kind of reminds me of the Drury skill level, just very disciplined kids, hard-nosed, tough. You got Utah Valley, who plays like this 1-3-1 zone, and you look at their statistics, they're top 10 in the nation in turnovers forced and steals. So you have some nuances throughout the conference and I've told our team, our biggest challenge this year is preparing for everyone's best punch and best game and best fight, because that's a feather in their cap if they knock off GCU at this point in the year, with us being preseason first and right now top of the conference. So, and we've seen that. I felt like, gosh, they played really, really good tonight. I feel like I keep on saying that when we face teams, and that's going to be our team's biggest challenge, is to rising to that challenge and getting everyone's best shot night in and night out. And that was the same as Drury. You knew that it was their Super Bowl, and so you were going to get probably the theme night of when you're on the road. You're going to get free tickets to the game if we're playing GCU on the road. You're going to get all those factors that go into it, and I think this team has handled it well. But as we've seen in some of our early conference games, we've been tested, and we will continue to be tested as the season progresses.
I didn't even know there was such a thing, but the women's mid-major top 25 rankings, most recent one was last week, but Grand Canyon number 7, behind South Dakota State, Harvard, Princeton, Columbia, Quinnipiac, and Portland. I look down the list and I see Drake from the Missouri Valley there at 15. Your thoughts on the mid-major rankings, and is that something that you pay attention to? Because, these are the teams that they're going to go to that list, aren't they, when they start looking for at-large, unless you win is it an automatic bid for the WAC for the tournament?
Yeah.
Okay. And regular season, no, but tournament, yes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. I think for us, when we look at those things, it's a nice recognition, I think, especially for the school, because they haven't been in that area yet. When you're talking about Grand Canyon, I think now it's becoming a little bit more known and popular, and what the men have done in the tournament, and the Havoc section, just the support behind, which is our student section, the support behind the basketballs and all athletics. Really, it's just kind of a cool culture. But we haven't seen Grand Canyon in these polls and in the print as much in the past, and I think that's just kind of a nod to the administration and the support and the resources, but kind of where we've come from, but where we're going also. We want that to be a regular and a staple for us, and hopefully someday it's in the top 25 of the NCAA pool. And I think with the commitment and just even moving to the Mountain West and kind of that conference realignment, we're going to be in positions to be noteworthy in these polls. So I think it's just a testament to the process and the progress of where we're trying to get this program to go.
And by the way, for those who are wondering, Missouri State is in the others receiving votes in that list too. I guess you don't want to take on Harvard and Princeton maybe in jeopardy or anything, but you'll play them in basketball right now, right?
There you go. Yeah, we got some smart kids, but I think we'll stick to the court.
There you go.
Those schools.
I look at your roster, and you touched on some of your stars. Laura Erikstrop, is that correct? Erikstrop?
Yeah, Erikstrop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was the sixth woman of the year in the WAC last year, so you said she's made a big jump. She's leading you in scoring at 15.8 points and grabbing 7.2 rebounds. Alyssa, your guard, that's shooting threes, 15-3 a game. When you go down through your roster, 13 of these kids were transfers at one point or another. I know you've had some of them for 2, 3, 4 years. That's the nature of the men's game for sure now. Is the women's game becoming that, and that's kind of just the cards you're dealt right now?
Yeah, completely. It's just a new landscape, and you don't really look too much into it. I think for me, I've enjoyed being a destination city and a place that takes care of their sports like GCU does. So it is appealing for transfers to come to a place like GCU. So we've worked that to our advantage. I do want to recruit high school kids, but if I'm being honest, and we have 4 signed for next year. So that development piece is really, really important to me. Just like with Tiara, her 5-year development has been so much fun to be a part of and watch. However, if you can get a proven college player to fill in some of those roster spots, then you're probably ahead of the game. And that's what you're doing when you're recruiting kids like, Trinity, she was one of our top transfers. She was, she played in the WAC, but she was also like a proven player. So I knew she could fit the system, but I knew she could dominate the WAC. And so it was kind of like a no-brainer to have her fill in one of those spots. maybe instead of or in complement to, an 18-year-old coming out of high school. I think you've got to have a nice blend of both. But with teams constantly being able to pull from the portal, they can get instantly better. Instead of, if a team was to get better, it might take a few years of getting some recruiting classes back to back that would help your program. But now you've got to face teams that can go from zero to hero, really, in a matter of a year. So the portal has been good to us because we've been able to recruit some really good kids. It is kind of like speed dating, so you have to do your homework. Why are they transferring? Why do they want something new? Do they fit the culture of the program? Those are things that, and I have to give kudos to my staff, they do a really good job of. We used to have an off season after March ball in April, May, but now it is probably one of the busiest times of year. But we do a really good job of kind of vetting those players, trying to figure out what works for our team, for our culture, the spots we need help in. I think that's why Alyssa was a huge target of ours. The shooting, we knew we needed to open up some of those driving lanes for Trinity and Tiara. So even if she's not hitting, which she usually is, but she's an applied threat. So just having her on the court and being able to recruit her from the portal and her having 3 years of college stats of being a good shooter, we kind of knew what we were getting with her. We didn't have to roll the dice as much as, when you're taking a freshman, you're like, well, we see her panning out like this. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But I definitely think the portal has been a resource for us that has kind of helped us in the development of our program.
How exhausting is coaching now? I mean, you're a mother of two young kids, and I know Derek has to do a great job of helping you as an assistant coach, as a parent or head coach. I don't know how you guys arrange it. Co-coaches would be probably the safest way to end that. But
Yeah.
but I mean, this is not what any of you signed up for, and this is the world that's been created now with the transfer portal and NIL, and constantly probably having to protect your own roster from being poached and just keeping an eye on who might be out there. I mean, how do you find time in the day to be a mom?
It's a balancing act, and I don't want to. I mean, here we are. This is the state of it. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to do my best. I don't want to be woe is me in this whole scenario. But you just have to adapt, and I think the adaptability of coaches is phenomenal. I mean, I'm still on my front nine. I haven't been in this for 25 plus years like some of these coaches. It's been a real swing real quick, but this has been a change in mentality from even recruitment to retention to the approach of, like you said, poaching. And, if you do recruit a really, really, really good freshman, are they just going to get, taken by a high major? Or if you recruit a freshman and they don't play as much as they want to, are they just going to leave anyways? There's so many dynamics to think of. You got to rest on your culture a little bit to handle some of that, but some of that's just going to be the nature of how the new normal is for these kids. It's not offensive anymore that someone's transferring out of a program or transferring into a program. It's just really a normal nuance of it all. But, Derek, like you said, he's amazing. He does a really good job. Of course, there's mom guilt a lot, but I think it's my kids' normal. They get to see mom at work sometimes. They get to come into the locker room post-game, pre-game. They're out in the tunnel giving me high fives. So there's perks to this busy coaching life that we live, but there's also missing a lot of their games. Side's playing flag football, baseball, basketball right now. Crosby's on a girls' team, on a boys' team, and, of course, a lot of those activities are Saturdays, and we play on Saturdays. So that's always tough, but again, when I show up, they know it's pretty special if mom gets the time to show up, and they're proud of that, and it makes it an extra special day. So you just work with the new normal. You can't feel sorry for yourself, and I signed up for this, and I'm still in it. So I enjoy it. It's a challenge sometimes. Kids, I don't want to say kids are different these days. You still have great hard workers. You still have people that pour into it, but there is maybe a little different perspective just because of the new environment that's just normal. It's not our normal from when we played, but it's this generation's normal, and that's okay. We just got to figure out how to make the nuance of the new normal work, and that's what we're striving to do. And it's a lot outside of the X's and O's coaching, but that's okay too. I'm growing as a person, as a mentor, as a role model, as a manager of people. So it's fun. It can be stressful, but it's all worth it when you're trying to impact lives and the relationships you build through this line of work that I'm doing.
I think the ultimate sign of the apocalypse being here now is when I look at your roster and there's a $sign by each player. It says, click here for NIL opportunities. And I know that that's probably common all across websites now, and especially Division I. But did you ever think you'd see a $sign by a player's name on a roster that, hey, if you want to help them out here, here's where you click? And again, that's the world we're in now.
Yeah, it's gone a path that I don't think it was intended to go, which is sad because then this negotiation, I think the players have a lot of control over the wrong thing. But here we are, and I think it would have been great for, who was it, Tim Tebow, who had the highest jersey sale in the country, to receive some of that benefit. And he didn't get the opportunity to because he was in college and he couldn't get paid. But that's not what we're doing now, which is a hard pill to swallow. But hopefully there's some regulation. And what I really like about being part of this program is we have a collective, but we're doing it the right way. We go and serve and make appearances in underprivileged communities. Victory Mission is a school with lower economic families and students, and we're able to provide some outreach to them. So our kids will get paid for those appearances, and that's true NIL. So I can lay my head on my pillow knowing that $sign is for them to help the community, and they're getting paid for their appearances and their engagement. Now, we'll still do our community service, too. In fact, this morning we're having some outreach with a local children's hospital. We'll go read across America, and those things, you don't expect to get paid for them. We're still trying to contribute to our community, but there is a little bit of an element of NIL where you can get paid for your name and your image and your likeness, and hopefully that's done the right way. I'm proud to say we are doing true NIL here at Drury or at GCU. But if I was at Drury too, I would have loved to got paid for like a camp I would have hosted. I'm just thinking about my 20-year-old self. Like if I got to host a camp and got that income, that would have been great, and I would have been doing the appropriate work to get paid for it. But so there's definitely some good things, some positives, but definitely has taken a turn for some places I don't think it was intended to go.
And that was my next question. If Molly Miller, then Molly Carter, playing at Drury back in 2006, 7, and 8, could have had an endorsement deal, give me a product or two that you would have said, sign me up, because if I get free stuff from that, it's a good deal. Andy's, maybe?
Well, everyone in Springfield is going to say Andy's. So I could have had my frozen custard weekly trips. That would have been nice. And then Bob Luke would have hooked me up, I think, at Rib Crib, because I enjoy that barbecue salad so much.
Yeah, there you go. There's two right off the bat.
Endorsements. Yeah. I really wouldn't have had to gotten paid for that endorsement. I just would have liked a meal and a custard.
Can you imagine if the transfer portal were around as it is now, back when you were finishing up at Drury? How much would you have had to guard Haley Disselkamp and Deja on a daily basis from getting poached and contacted?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think there definitely would have been that appeal and opportunity, but I just think of those two as so loyal anyways. They remind me of like the Tierra Brown that I'm coaching, and they were all about Drury. And, two things about those kids, like their parents did it right. Like I just think of how even Deja and her parents came to every game, and they were all about Drury, and Chris and Rila were constantly supporting her. And there's something to that, I think, when you have really good influences in your life. And I think that commitment would have held strong. And those two went down in the history books. Same as Tierra. Tierra's going to leave GCU as the leading scorer in the Division I air when she graduates. She couldn't have done that if she would have transferred. Same with Haley and Deja. Like, they made history, and they left their legacy because of their commitment. and their success. So I do think that would have had something to do with it, but it would have been hard. I'm sure it would have been tempting. They probably got some dollar figures thrown their way.
Absolutely, yeah. And so now looking at the numbers, of course, you were 180-17 in your 6 seasons at Drury. Not bad for a medical marketing girl back in 2012 or whatever you were doing then. And of course, 282-54 now overall, 102-37 in your 5th season at Grand Canyon. What did you learn that, I guess the best way to put this is, Molly Miller in year 5 at Grand Canyon versus Molly Miller as a Division I rookie coach? What's the big difference?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, you've changed with the times. I've definitely changed. But I've also, the toughest thing when I was a rookie is like the management. And I think me to kind of let go of different areas and focus on the main ones was tough for me, because at Drury I was kind of everything. You know, I would even run some strength and conditioning sessions, but now I've got my own strength and conditioning coach. You know, I've got a director of ops. I was sitting there looking up flights, you know, or looking up bus trips with my assistants, and now we have someone that does all the logistics. So just fine-tuning my approach to the big picture stuff. And now I won't micromanage, but I still like to know what's going on. So I still think like the recruiting is so important to me. So I want to make sure that like our socials are, you know, hitting our recruits every day and having that content out. Although I have my own SID, which is nice, but just I'm involved with all those areas. But I think my 5th year, I've been able to maybe let go of some of that control and those pieces. Not completely, because it's still my program, but enough to where, you know, I can stay in a few less lanes than I had to manage and orchestrate different things at Drury. But it has been a great learning experience. I think I've grown as a coach I've had some really good assistants around me, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. So just the evolution of the brand and the evolution of the X's and O's and scenarios, just what it really takes to be a good coach. And then the relationships are always growing. You know, in my younger years, I thought I need to keep a healthy distance. You know, I'm so close in age that I don't want to be like, come off as besties and friends and not serious and professional. But now that I've grown older, I feel like Deja says I'm getting soft in my old years, but I feel like I can be maybe a little bit more, open and laid back and not so maybe high strung, but still have a high standard and high expectations. But they just says it's funny how much I let go these days. But some of that, you got to pick your battles, and I'm learning to pick my battles in my older years.
Well, and you know, last year you guys go 24-8. I know it didn't end the way you wanted, losing a regular season finale. I think, would that have given you a share of the league title, the last one? Yeah,
it would have.
And then the first game in the conference tournament in the semifinals. How much has that finish last year been a motivator for this team? Because you guys were right there. I mean, you feel like obviously that maybe you get in with a win in either one of those in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, complete motivator, just because we're not satisfied, and we feel like that was a missed opportunity. And even the transfers that are in feel that too. I keep on referencing Tiara, but she's been here with me for 5 years now, so she's the spokesperson of this group, and she can really tell the journey. And for that to kind of slip away for us, it left a little bitter taste. And so from the get-go, even for me, I was like, all right, we're going to schedule harder in the non-conference, because we need to set ourselves up for conference and the tournament and what that looks like. And we're going to schedule, we had a Thanksgiving tournament and a Christmas tournament where we played 3 games in 4 days. That was intentional, because we're about to play 3 games in 4 days if we can continue in the conference tournament. So there's some intentionality, and I think that shows this year with how we've approached it based on last year and where we want to get this program to.
Got to ask you, because nobody goes into this just wanting to stay at the same place forever if they're not at the pinnacle level of things. You are at Division I, but you are at a mid-major. Your name was bandied about last year after the season, obviously with the 17-2 start, and if you guys carry on and carry this through and go to the tournament, you're going to be a hot name out there this year. How do you deal with all that during the season, and how's that handled for you in that regard?
Oh, I don't know. I thought I was going to be a Drury lifer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to me, yes, I'm very competitive at the highest level, and that's motivating for me, but there's a few factors that I value, and one is, the culture of the place I'm at, and obviously that Drury being my backyard and having all the support of people who watched me play there and then watched me coach there. That was something that was just so huge in my coaching journey. And then taking that next step to Grand Canyon, which was a faith-based institution, private Christian university, no football, very similar to Drury. I just felt like that was a good spot for me. So I'm not really, motivated by the print. I want to be at a place where I'm supported, where I know we can win. We're doing it the right way. We're going to be competitive. I can impact lives. And here I am. I am here right now. When those things come up, it's nice because I have an agent and there's communication between the school and my agent, so I can really stay out of that and focus on my team and what I'm doing, where my feet are. So they can handle any of the calls that come in, and I'm just really focused on day by day and getting better as a team and winning this conference, had a good non-conference, and then going strong into this conference tournament and trying to achieve our goals.
And this Grand Canyon's never been to the NCAA tournament on the women's side, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be a milestone too as well. So am I correct that are things still going toward Grand Canyon joining the Mountain West next year?
Yeah, we could join as early as, I think, the summer, as late as 2026. It's a bylaw in there that, with all these contracts and legal stuff, we're just, whenever we play and a schedule comes out, we're going to be ready. So, first the West Coast Conference, now the Mountain West. They're just kind of working on logistics of timing and when all that's going to happen.
And that would be, UNLV's a top team in there on the women's side, Nevada, New Mexico, Boise State, Colorado State, and Wyoming with a former Kickapoo Lady Chief, Heather Rizal. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be fun, and they're great. I hear it's a tough place to play, though, so those road games in Wyoming are not for the faint of heart. No wonder Heather's coaching there. She's a tough as they come. But, that'd be fun to have two Chiefs in the same conference.
Do you keep up with what Kickapoo's still doing and what the Lady Panthers at Drury have done as well? Obviously, Kickapoo, a former teammate there, Leslie Hanchey, doing a great job as the head coach.
Yeah, I keep tabs on Les and what she's doing, and she's just done a phenomenal job of keeping that winning tradition alive. And I know everyone kind of in her class are around that area, Holly and Kaylee and Greta, and it's just been kind of Heather, Hannah. It's been fun to watch her, and I know we're all really supportive of her. I wish I could get back to a game. These basketball season months, they clash. I'd love to see Heather. I'd love to see Drury at a game, but you can bet my dad's there supporting them, and my mom will come too if she's not in Kansas City with my sister making trips. But Dad usually catches some Drury games and Kickapoo games throughout the year. Yeah,
your parents have moved out of the Arizona area. How much has the enthusiasm level suffered with Cindy Carter not in your gym on a regular basis? Has that been a little bit of a downer?
Yeah, the girls are disappointed that there's not as many chocolate-covered strawberry trips that she usually fixes for them. But it's just been nice. I decided I can share with Hannah and Sam. So, when we first moved here, I kind of really what encouraged me the most, Cy was 6 months old, and my mom had kind of been a caretaker for Crosby for, she was 4 the past 4 years, and Cy for the first 6 months of his life. And I was like, Mom, will you come help get me started? Thinking it might be, a year thing or 6 months just to get our feet wet. And my mom and dad ended up buying a house by us, and it turned into 4 years, which was incredible. But now, both my kids are in school, and Sam and Hannah's kids are young. So she decided to move back to Springfield, and they actually bought another fixer-upper for her in Kansas City. So she's going Joanna Gaines on her next house, but fixed up the Phoenix house, sold it, and now there for Hannah and Sam. So I thought I'd share them a little bit, but it was a good run with them here in Phoenix.
Absolutely. Well, Molly, I know you got things to do, a busy week for you coming up, a couple home games. I always appreciate your time, and Best of luck. Let's finish this thing off with about 20 consecutive or 25 or 30, whatever you got left in your schedule, okay?
I love that. Sounds like a plan. Thanks for having me on, and hello to all my hometown crew. I miss you guys, but excited and still feel your support from there to here. So thanks again for having me on, Scott.
You bet. Thanks, Molly. Wrap up segment in 3, 2, 1. That's going to do it for another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Big thanks to Molly Miller for taking time to chat with us. Didn't bring it up in the podcast, but there may be a couple of Power 4 SEC jobs in the vicinity of the Springfield, Missouri area that come open, and I'm sure that Molly's name, if they finish off what they've started here, may be a hot topic with those fan bases as well, after popping up in several discussions last year for some SEC jobs, so stay tuned on that. As always, want to thank our sponsors, Fast Break Sports, located at 3109 South Campbell. It is your home for all things sports collectibles, memorabilia. They've got it all in the store. If you're a baseball, basketball, football card collector, get those boxes and protectors and all the things to protect your investment. If you got a fan cave, man cave, they've got that stuff set off by team in there as well. So go see the guys at Fast Break Sports. And the Pitts Pizza and Pub in the Southern Hills Shopping Center off East Sunshine. Go see Brian and his folks there. Great place to grab a pizza, calzone, their sandwiches, cold beverages, and to watch your favorite sporting events, which brings us to the pitch, what to watch this weekend. We'll talk about a few items here. The Lady Bears have a 2-game homestand Friday night against Drake at 6:30 tip-off at Great Southern Bank Arena. Lady Bears are 13-4 and 5-1 in the Valley, playing really well right now. Then they'll turn around and play on Sunday afternoon against Northern Iowa at Great Southern Bank Arena. 2 o'clock tip-off on that. Both those will be on ESPN Plus if you can't make it over to the arena. Bears are home with a Saturday game, 3 o'clock tip-off against Drake. Bears are 7-12, struggling a little bit at 0-8 in the Valley right now. Drake is 16-2. And the best team in the Valley coming in. It's also a Drake team with a couple local products, Cale Combs from Nixa and Daniel Abreu from Willard on that roster for Drake. So a chance to see some former local talent here in the area. That's 3 o'clock on Saturday. And the NFL championship games, AFC and NFC, on Sunday. Set aside your afternoon for some great football. 2 o'clock, it's the Commanders at the Eagles. Washington kind of a surprise to get to this point. Got their tremendous rookie quarterback, Jalen Daniels, getting it done for them. And then the Chiefs, back in it again, 7th straight year AFC title game. They will take on Josh Allen and the Bills. 5:30 kickoff in the AFC title game for the Chiefs, trying to get to a 3rd straight Super Bowl and a three-peat as champions. So that's your weekend wrap-up. Busy weekend of football and basketball. As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.